Well, my name's Arvin Chen, and I just made this movie called We Will Still Be Tomorrow, which is playing in Traverse City, obviously. And basically, it's a Taiwanese movie, and I live and work in Taiwan, in Taipei, although I'm not originally from there. I grew up in California, in Northern California.
I'm from San Diego.
Oh, cool. But I've made two movies in Taiwan. This is my second one. And yeah, for the time being, I think I'll be there for a while making movies, either in Taiwan or China or in Asia, which I actually really like living in Asia. And this movie is it's a romantic comedy, but I think it's kind of maybe a bit of a dramedy, or it's got elements of melodrama, and to me it's also quite sad in parts for for a romantic comedy. But it was a story that I had heard from some Taiwanese friends, and the idea was to do a movie about a family, but also talk about love and marriage and some of these relationship issues that people have in Taiwan.
So I understand this is your second movie.
Second movie, correct?
And what
yeah.
was the first movie that you made?
It's called Ofa Taipei, and it was made it came out in 2010, about 3 years ago.
And was that a drama, comedy?
That's more of a pure comedy. It's like a screwball comedy or a screwball romantic comedy.
And how did that do?
It did pretty okay. It did at least okay enough for me to get another movie.
Now, you were talking in the Q&A, you were saying that in Taiwan, they go ahead and they help with the financing of the movie, do they not?
Yeah, the Taiwanese government, it's not guaranteed, obviously. You have to apply just like anything else. It's basically a grant, and you can apply for it. And luckily, both my films have had some support from the Taiwanese government. And that's a great thing for these kind of movies, just because, it's not... Without them, I think it would be hard to get it fully financed. And in America, I understand it's just such an industry that it's a lot harder to get that kind of support. But we're lucky that in Taiwan we can get it.
You should continue making movies in Taiwan because you are an incredible filmmaker.
Thank you.
You're not only the director of this movie, but you're also the screenwriter.
Right.
Now, what seed of thought entered into your mind of embellishing this script into the wonderful movie that you have?
It just started with this idea of a closeted gay man who's a father and a husband, and he knows inside that he's kind of playing a role, and I thought about how that would affect his character, and then how that would affect his wife's character, and it just became a little story where I thought, well, it would take place in this month between his sister's engagement and his sister's marriage, and him and his wife and his sister and a few people around them would struggle with kind of the balance between trying to find a normal life and also keeping love in their life. So a lot of little teeny details, that's just writing, where you just got to spend a lot of time and think about scenes and characters and dialogue. But the basic story came to me pretty fast, where I knew what kind of movie it would probably be about.
How long did it take you to write the screenplay? What was the length of time for your first draft?
Right, that's a good question. I'm a slow writer, so it took me about 6 months to write a first draft, and it took me another 6 months to get it to a point where I felt like you could shoot it, and then another 6 months of us pre-producing the movie while I was rewriting it or fudging it a little bit, because we had cast the actors. So once you get actors in, and you see locations, then you keep finessing it a little bit.
Well, I think that your motion picture really teaches all aspiring screenwriters and also filmmakers that don't even begin to make a motion picture unless you have a terrific script.
Right.
And
right.
this is a terrific script.
Thank you. It's... I think just this, if you have a good script or you have a solid script, there's less can go wrong. You're fighting uphill if you don't have a solid story. I don't consider this to be a flawless script, but I think it's a story. It's a story that can be told. And I think sometimes if you're working with a story where the story is still a little shaky, the drama's a little shaky, it's really hard to fix it while you're shooting it. Ideally you want to take a strong story, and then you want to just have the actors bring the characters to life, and you want to shoot it in a way in which it feels like the story is coming to life. But if you also have to be responsible for telling or creating the story while you're shooting it, it's dangerous, I think.
Now, did you have a hand in the editing of the program?
I'm not the editor, but I work very closely with the editor because he's a good friend of mine, and we've known each other for 10 years now, actually. So and we've been working together, for almost 10 years, ever since film school.
Stay together because you are a really, really great
Right.
team. The editing was just splendid.
Yeah, he's just he's just a great guy, basically, and I always think of us as we're not editing the film, we're just kind of retelling the story with the materials that we have, and it's a pretty good process, like I don't know if I could work with another editor, to be honest, because he's such a part of the way I make movies.
I just read a book on Clint Eastwood, and that's what he did. He held on to all the people that
Right.
worked with him. He kept them year after year for 20 years or more.
Yeah, I think I've heard both. There's filmmakers that like to change up things, and there's filmmakers that like to stick with the same core creative team. And I'm definitely probably more of the guy that wants to stick with the core creative team, because I think once you find people that you can really work with, ideally that kind of communication or that kind of relationship just gets better and better with each movie. And you can make deeper and deeper movies or better and better films.
When you, in your screenplay, and you have all the multiple scenes, did you find that when trying to find the composite when you were actually filming, that it was pretty right on, that you didn't have to embellish it that much from what the screenplay originally laid out?
I think there's still a lot of, because the screenplay is still text. It doesn't really come alive until you're in a location and you're acting with actors. So I always try to keep it less like the screenplay is like instructions, because we're not just kind of going off what I wrote.
So there was a lot of flexibility.
There's a lot of flexibility, yeah. There's a lot of flexibility with, how we're going to shoot the scene. There's a lot of flexibility with the tone of the scene. There's a scene, the scene where they argue, where the wife confronts her husband in like the living room. That scene in the script was actually written a little less dramatically. It wasn't very heavy. And then once we got to that scene, we realized that it should be heavy, because it's like the only scene where we see the wife kind of explode. And so, on the set, we chose to do it differently than the way it was written. And so I think when you're writing the script, you can't know how the whole movie's going to feel yet. So I think that you have to leave, for me at least, you have to leave a little bit of flexibility, so that you can the way the actors are behaving, and the way that the feeling of the set that day can inform you a little bit about what you should do, and not just stick to the script.
One thing I always look for when I go see a motion picture, even if it's a Western, if it has a great soundtrack.
Right.
The odds of it being considered as a really terrific movie
Right.
is greatly goes up. What type of music did you? I mean, where did you get the music? Did you have it originally composed, or were these classics?
It was composed. We listened to a lot of 50s Hollywood like musicals and classic Hollywood movies as a reference, but it was completely composed by a Taiwanese composer. Music is also an important part for me of every movie too. So it's one of the most fun things you can do.
So this is an original score.
It's original score. Yeah.
Bravo to the composer.
Yeah, he's a great composer. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I've also worked with him twice as well. So
keep him on board as well.
Definitely. Yeah,
I mean,
great.
his music was absolutely splendid.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy.
The scene where you, at the very end of the movie, where they decide to let each other go.
Right.
And you had them walking down the aisle where the flowers are being tossed over them. That was just absolutely ingenious.
Thanks, thank you.
And then the fellow that the fellow that had the eyeglass
Right.
shop, and he was standing on the outside the window, and then he went up with his umbrella into the sky.
Right.
Now, where did that come from?
I had thought of the movie would open with a fantasy, like
Yeah,
a really
yeah.
little fantasy of his boss flying away, just to set up that in this world, there would be these magical realist things that happen, and I just thought about Mary Poppins. It's just one of the things I remember from childhood is like those shots of Julie Andrews flying into the air. So I just thought it'd be funny. Sometimes it's just these things that I think are funny, to me, that they're goofy or funny, and I just want to shoot them. So I do, and in that case, I thought it'd be funny to shoot.
Well,
this guy.
That's the thing I found really ingenious about your movie, is that you always had these little tags at the end of each one of the little scenes. I mean, it just didn't go out flatly.
Right.
There was always something, and just that wonderful scene where the husband's walking down the alley. and he was still contemplating about going back to his gay life.
Right.
And then he elevated up into the sky as well.
Right.
I mean, that was just absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, those things are always, they're the funnest things to shoot, to be honest. Like shooting those scenes, I think is almost too fun. When we do something like that, or shooting like dramatic scenes, that's a lot of work. That's really, you have to get in there with the actors, and you really have to. I'm on edge when I'm shooting those scenes because you're really torturing the actors. You really.
What was your rapport with your actors?
It was great. They're sweet. They're just really sweet people and kind.
That really came across. I mean, you had marvelous music, great composites, just wonderful dialogue, great storyline, and then to have such a great cast.
Yeah, I was lucky. And the people say that all the time. Casting is such an important thing, but really it makes your life easier. If you spend a little bit more time or thought in the casting, there's things with a good actor that you can never force them to do. Like if you get an actor that's not right, it's almost impossible to make them better because and if you are making them better, you're making them just by like maybe a few percentage points, but you're not really going to get things that are surprising or things that you never could never imagine would be like that. With an actor that's not appropriate, I think you're just trying to make them passable, and it's not good enough usually.
How many weeks did it take to shoot this?
About 6 weeks.
Whew. Wow, that's amazing.
It's actually not. It's actually pretty comfortable, to be honest. 6 weeks is. You feel like you're getting a little bit done every day. It's not too rushed. I think if we had maybe 5 weeks or 4 weeks, it would have really been tough.
Yeah. Now, has this screened in San Francisco?
It screened once in San Francisco, yeah.
And what was the reaction in San Francisco?
Unfortunately, I wasn't there, but I heard it went pretty well. But I wasn't. I was still in Asia during that screening, unfortunately.
Any negative reviews on this?
Nothing too negative. In Taiwan, the box office for my first movie was better than this one. And I think a lot of it had to do with the subject matter. It was a little still off.
A little bit more conservative
right,
on that fact?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it is such an honor to be able to sit here with you because you're a very, very humble fellow for being as talented as you are, and that's good to see you like this.
There's a lot of very talented filmmakers
out there. I've talked to a few, but Arvin, right? Mm-hmm. Arvin, thank you very much for sharing your
no problem.
Your movie and this time with us. So
sure.
Anyway, you have a really, really great time in Traverse City.
Yeah, it's been great actually. I love this festival. So
wonderful movie, and I expect to see this as a nominee at the Oscars.
It's gonna be tough.
under the foreign film
Thank
category.
You.
Thank you, Arvin.
Thank you.